some fundamentals in English language, and more so that which you need for the ACT and the SAT. So what are phrases and clauses? What is a clause rather? So clauses, a group of words can be defined as a clause if it has two critical components. So such a group would be a clause if it has two critical components. What are they? The first one, it has to have a subject. Second one, it has to have the action performed by the subject. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, right? So does it have these two things? Does it have a subject? Yes, Humpty Dumpty is the subject. Sat is the action performed. That's it. Even Humpty Dumpty sat itself is a clause. Please remember that clauses can be just two words. You don't need to look for several words. It doesn't have to be 10 words long for it to be a clause. That's not the criteria. Does it have the subject? Does it have the action? So you can have Humpty Dumpty sat, you can have John ran, you can have Mary sang, Jack and Jill danced. Well, the other way is I can replace all these names with the pronouns. So if I'm talking about a paragraph that I'm writing and I've used the word Humpty Dumpty earlier, then what would I do? I would use the pronoun he for Humpty Dumpty. So I would substitute it with he sat, or John would become he ran, Mary would become she sang, and Jack and Jill would become they danced. So please remember, you can substitute subject names with pronouns, and also remember, pronouns can not only just be he, she, they, it, etc., but also the two pronouns, two or three that a lot of students forget, that, who, and which. These are also pronouns, and their various forms. Phrases. What are phrases? Any group of words which is lacking in either of these, or both, will automatically be a phrase. What do I mean? A phrase thus may have no subject, sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. From that, if we take out the Humpty Dumpty, it doesn't have a subject. It just has sat on a wall. It's a phrase. Or it may have no action performed by the subject. So if I just put Humpty Dumpty, that again is a phrase. Or you could have a situation where there's neither a subject nor a verb on a wall. There's no action, there's no subject. So these are all different types of sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty, on a wall, all are phrases. So before we go any further, let's do an exercise in finding out whether you can identify what is a clause and what is a phrase. Here are 8 examples. The sun sets in the west, first one. Second, some of the fruits have gone bad. Third, none of the students have come. Fourth, the rising sun. Fifth, nearly all the people who were present. Sixth, the dog that ate the poison meat died. 7, restrictions have recently been imposed on the people of the state. 8, they have gone. I'm giving you time to do the answers. Now, we'll go on to we'll solve each of these. We'll explain why something is a phrase or something is a clause. Here we move on to the first and the second one. The sun sets in the west. What do we find? You have the sun, which is the subject of the sentence, and sets, which is the verb. Perfect. In fact, just that much becomes a clause. Yes, it is a clause. The sun sets in the west also is a clause. The sun sets is also a clause. Second one was some of the fruits have gone bad. What is the subject here? Is there a subject? Some of the fruits will be the subject. Okay, it's not just fruits. Now, I want to tell you this, and I'll be repeating this several times. Anything which comes after a preposition is not the subject of the sentence. Fruits is not the subject of the sentence. Some of the fruits is the subject, right? You have a subject. Do you have a verb? Have gone. That's enough. Yes, have gone is the verb, and therefore, I don't even need to look at bad, but have gone bad would make it complete sense. That's what would make it a sentence. But some of the fruits have gone would just be the clause. So it is a clause. There you have it. Move on to the third and fourth ones. Third one was none of the students have come. Again, of the students would not be the subject. It's the whole thing. None of the students. Why wouldn't the students be the subject? Because it comes after the word of. Anything which comes after a preposition will never be the subject of the sentence. None is actually the subject, none of the students. None of what? None of the students is a subject. Okay, that's there. Have come is the verb, and therefore you have subject plus action performed, therefore it is a clause. Fourth one, the rising sun. Now this is where a lot of students could get misled. I hope you got the answer correct. Do you have a subject? The sun is the subject. Okay. Now what is is rising the action being performed? No. Rising, the word rising over here is actually describing the sun. It's not the action. What would complete the sentence? The rising sun looks beautiful. Looks beautiful would be the action. Rising is acting as an adjective, it's not acting as a verb, and therefore this is not a clause, it is a phrase. Next one. Nearly all the people who were present. Nearly all the people, yes, that's the subject. Now, dividing it into various parts. Who were present. Now, were present is not the subject, is not the action of nearly all the people, because there is a problematic word in between. Who. People who were present is the subject of the sentence, or nearly all the people who were present is the subject of the sentence. Where's the action? There isn't, and therefore it's not a clause, it is a phrase. Sixth one, the dog that ate the poison meat died. Let's divide it into various parts. The dog that ate the poison meat, that's the action, died. Oh, how many actions? Now this is what you should be careful about. That is again a pronoun. It is used to modify. As I told you, it's a pronoun and it is used to modify the dog. So the bit that ate the poison meat is a description of the dog, which is going to help you to identify which dog, right? So that and the ate the poison meat can actually be taken out of the sentence because it's a description. Then what are you left with? If I remove that and if I remove ate the poison meat, I'm left with the dog died. The dog is the subject, died is the action. That's very good. Yeah. So in your mind, take a pencil and eliminate that ate the poison meat. It's just a description. So it is a clause. If you remove that also, and that itself, the big bit inside itself also is a clause inside a clause. But anyway, the question was, is the bit the dog died, is it a clause? Yes, it is. Next one. Restrictions which have recently been imposed on the people of the state. Nice long one, you would always think it is a clause. No, not really. Let's go about it systematically. You have restrictions and then you have the word which usually starts a description. Have recently been imposed on the people of the state. So have recently been imposed is the action, but that's the action for which. So this together is a clause which is a subset of the entire thing, but that had another subject there, and therefore the whole thing will not be a clause. The word which is used to modify. Please remember it's a pronoun, like the word that. Further describe. It's used to further describe something, and therefore you have to eliminate that part from the sentence. So what you would do is which have been imposed on the state. In your mind, you just remove that. What are you left with? Restrictions. Restrictions does not have a action performed, and therefore if you remove that, there, you just have that. It is definitely not a clause. And the last one was, they have gone very easy. You have they, which is the subject, have gone, which is the action. It is a clause.